Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Taha Rashidi, Associate Professor at the School of Civil and Environmental Engineering. And this is a project in collaboration with two research associates from my team, Milad Qasri and Ali Ardeshini, and also Ned from Esprit. So what I want to present here, we've already heard about different aspects of PVs, and it seems to be very, very interesting technology. And if I ask, are you interested in it? Are you willing to pay? Are you interested? Definitely everybody says yes. And then if I ask, are you willing to pay for it? How much? What's the price? What do I gain? And when this question goes to normal people, typical people with different demographics, with different attributes, with different salary, education, age, and different backgrounds, it gets even more complicated. So this is the first study which is measuring the preference and willingness to pay of people with regard to this technology, which is also funded by Digital Grid Future Institute. So if we go back to the time that we had dumb phones, and now you're asking people, are you interested in this technology? And they say, what is this technology? And then we ask, are you willing to pay for this technology? It becomes even more complicated in their mind, digesting what it is. We should introduce it properly. Now, the audience here, you have a good understanding about what this technology is. But we also wanted to interview and design a survey that asks the same question from Australians in 8 major cities in Australia. So what we did, we started from something simple. Everybody is familiar with this technology. They are using it at their homes possibly, or not, if not, they've already seen it at least. And then gradually we introduced the technology to them. Imagine that this car, it's a hybrid car. You can use the solar panels on the roof, or maybe it's a plug-in car, or it's a battery electric vehicle, and you're using this technology to add more driving range to your car. But then imagine that from one respondent, we go out and ask, one reference car is cost you $15,000. And with this technology, we charge you $17,000. Are you willing to pay? Maybe it's too much. $2,000 on top of $15,000, it's tricky. But same person, if we tell them, now this car, same car, is worth $70,000, but with this technology, we sell it to you $70,000. Everybody, same person, and everybody would say, yes, definitely, I want it. Same person previously was not willing to pay $17,000, but willing to pay now $70,000. So it's critical to design the survey so that we can properly measure the willingness to pay of people. To do so, we have to also quantify different attributes of this technology. What we did with the help of the group here, Photovoltaic group here, specifically Ned, we identified several attributes of these types of vehicles. For example, added driving range. This is something that seems to be very critical. How much does it add? So, or for example, from every 5 fuel stations, 4 of them they provide fast charging facility, and we introduced it. What does fast charging facility mean? And what we did was that fast charging in this context, what we defined was something around 20 minutes to fully charge the car. Running costs. This is a critical attribute, and we introduced it to people. And also market penetration. This is also a very critical aspect that we also found it to be also important in the design of the survey and in the response of the people that we interviewed, that they need to know how many people have already responded positively to this technology. If it's still being adopted, maybe it's risky. If the majority of population have already picked it up, maybe it's the time that we also start considering this technology. But if we were sequentially asking these questions from a person who's very positive in terms of this technology, they would have said, yes, 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 I like it, I like it. Or maybe another person who doesn't like it and they're risk averse, they would have said, no, I don't like it. So what we did instead, to capture the trade-off between all of these variables that we identified to be critical, was to design the survey such that all of these attributes are presented to individuals We played with these attributes so that we can say, oh, at this point, this person accepted this alternative. And we change the attributes, say, oh, this person is not willing to pay as much, but with some tweaking into the pricing, driving range, added driving range, running cost, body type, the type of vehicle, with all of these variables, market penetration, we could measure at some point somebody switches to the technology that we are studying. We collected information from almost 2,000 individuals in Australia. Each of these people participated in 6 of those tasks. We played with different attributes with the same individual. And as you can see, our sample is quite close to the socio-demographic attributes of the population. I'm just showing age and gender, but education, employment, and other attributes, socio-demographic attributes, more or less we are close. Still very small sample, but this is the beginning of studying and measuring the preference of people. What we did, we used a method called latent class modeling to model the choice of these individuals. And the purpose was to identify different classes of people with different demographics who might be similar and homogeneous within each class. Eventually, within these 5 categories or classes that we identified, the first class, class 1, we call them PV/EV enthusiasts. Younger individuals, high income, high education, very interested in the technology. The second class, innovation ambivalence, 1/3 of the population fell into this category. They're also interested in this specific technology, not EVs, but if PV is added to EVs, they're interested then. And middle-aged group of people and not necessarily interested in EV, but with PV, they might be interested in the technology. And in the design, if you remember, we offered them both EV, PV-EV, and none of the above. So always they could say none of these options. They could opt out. The third group, electric vehicle enthusiasts. This group of people, they're interested in electric vehicles, but not necessarily the PV. And the demographics of them, relatively high performance for preference for electric vehicle, higher number of university graduate, and a number of trips that they're making, work trips was also high within this group. Fourth group that we identified, they're not interested at all in EVs. Mainly elderly people, the education level is also lower, and a high portion of individuals are retirees. And the last group, who are still similar to the previous group, but they're still interested in EVs. So one takeaway message from here is that if we want to market this technology, it's not necessarily good to go out and market it to everybody. We can target the specific groups based on their demographics, based on their socio-demographic attributes. So because some people might be very receptive to it, but some people may wait until the technology is completely adopted by others. So this table, I spent a little bit of time on this table to elaborate what we found and how we measured willingness to pay of people. And a disclaimer here is that this is biased toward the sample we collected, and definitely this is a sample that is associated with hypothetical bias, as we call it, because these people have not necessarily seen this technology out. Maybe electric vehicles, some of them they've seen it, but definitely we introduced it the way we introduced it, they understood it, and they responded to our survey. So recharge per minute. Literature for the first row says something around $2,000 to $3,000 per hour. But the literature, those studies actually targeted charging time. The charging time was not fast charging. So they were presenting to people 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours. So that's why they were saying $2,000 to $3,000 to reduce this charging time. We are measuring something around $500 to $1,000 per minute because the fast charging facility is providing the option of something around 20 minutes. range, you see that two classes. The second one were the people who were interested in that specific technology, not necessarily EV, but if it's bundled with PV, they are interested. And the fourth class who were not interested at all in EV, they are still possibly, they are anxious about the driving range. That's why they are willing to pay more if the driving range is extended. Penetration rate, you see that only class 2, those were again the people who were innovation adopters. They are interested in this specific technology, but they are willing to pay a good premium if they see that it's being adopted. Possibly not earliest stages, or maybe they also pick it up very early stages, but they need to, they are very sensitive in this market penetration. Added range, this row, so the unit here is around $60 per 1 kilometer per day. But based on the introduction you've already seen, we can expect something around 30 kilometers per day. And if you multiply it, you can easily see that it's around $2,000 willingness to pay for this technology if I can gain 30 kilometers per day. And color. This is also very interesting. I would say it's inflated, but people are still 3 classes among the population that we studied, majority, a good portion of people that we studied, they are willing to pay a good premium to receive matching color for the body of the car and the solar panels. This is also very informative to me. And the last row is just a validation for the models that we developed. What it's saying is the exchange rate between upfront cost, purchasing cost, and running cost. And that this shows that if we assume something around 10,000 to 15,000 kilometers per year with interest rate of something around 3% and the running cost of something around $200, $300 per year, these are exchangeable. So the running cost that we estimated and the purchase price that we estimated with reasonable assumptions, they're exchangeable. So to conclude, I want to relate our study with a well-established theory called diffusion of innovation. In that theory, they identified 5 groups of people. This is also used a lot for marketing purposes. Innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. So population can be split the way we also classified it. We developed some classes who might be very interested. Quickly they pick it up. iPhone comes out, massive line is in front of the Apple shop. Some people are interested, but some people wait for a while until the market is somehow saturated, laggards, and then they go because they don't possibly have any other options. But something else that I want to add is that our study is silent about timing of adoption. How long does it take until the innovators pick up this technology? 5 years? 10 years? We don't know. We need to actually extend this study so that we also study how long does it take until the first cohort of people adopt it, and then the second cohort join them, and so on and so forth. Thank you very much.